What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video I've got 5 very specific fragrances that I want to talk to you guys about. So clones is a big topic, and while I do enjoy my share, the ones I prefer the most actually have their own little twist and little spin on popular fragrances. Like, it's clear they were going the route of said fragrance, but there's a different nuance that's a pretty obvious change that kind of makes it somewhat a clone with a twist. So like I said, I've got 5 of those and I want to talk to you about them. Stay tuned. Starting with one that's kind of a hybrid of the two things I think it smells closest to, that being Tom Ford's Ombre Leather and Ombre Leather Parfum. I think it falls somewhere in between, having nuance from both. We're talking about Afnan's Rare Carbon. So with Rare Carbon, you do get that bright jasmine leather, slight fruity sweet smell, but you also get the metallic violet leaf and some of that floral powdery smell from the Parfum. It's interesting because this came out before the Parfum, if I remember correctly, and it definitely reminds me of it. This is so good. This has halted me from buying a bottle of either, because I used to have a decant of both the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum versions, and they're phenomenal. They are absolutely phenomenal. Standalones, great fragrances. I don't think they're super redundant to one another, but I mean, it's the same DNA, just there's a twist to it. And speaking of a twist, this kind of has elements of both, which makes it its own twist. This is more inspired by Ombre Leather and Ombre Leather Parfum, that scent profile as a whole, versus being a carbon copy, direct clone of. Great performer, 30 some odd dollar price range, typically low 30s to high 30s. I think that's a good price point for it. The quality here is actually pretty good. In my experience, Afnan, they tend to use some decent oils, so they never really smell too cheap and synthetic. Like, I'm a fan of the house for that alone. Their quality seems decent. They don't smell super cheap to me. Comparatively to the Tom Fords, obviously those smell a bit higher quality, but I don't think there's much of a drop off here. But this is one I would definitely check out if you're into leather and don't want to spend Tom Ford ombre leather type of money. This is definitely worth exploring, in my opinion. This is Rare Carbon from Afnan. Now, this is one I recently got my hands on, and it falls somewhere, and again, somewhere in between, almost like a third version of Raja Parfum's Apex, because it's not as dark and earthy as the Eau de Parfum, but it has the fruitiness of the Parfum, but not near the density. It is Paris Corner's Emir Vertex. So Vertex kind of, and this might sound a little weird, if you have experience with both versions, you'll follow my train of thought here, kind of like Apex Eau Fraiche. Now, not Eau Fraiche in the traditional sense, Eau Fraiche when comparing it to the real deal versions, because it's fresh, it's fruity, it's bright and fresh green spiced. The earthiness is there, but it's overall fresher versus those two. It's really good. Really good. Has that light earthy tobacco smell, a bunch of cypress and wood, smoky nuance, but the pineapple, the fruits, the citruses, they're all dominant up front, which oddly enough, the lower oil concentration of the two real deal ones doesn't have the fruitiness of the higher oil concentration, but this one does, and it smells lighter than the two of those. It's kind of weird the way it worked out, which I enjoy that, because now, depending on the situation, depends on which one I'll wear when I'm in the mood for scent profile, because I think this is a bit more casual versus both versions of Apex. Average performer, right in that wheelhouse of like 6-7 hours. Like I said, average stuff, not even remotely close to the performance of the Raja Parfum's fragrances, but for the money, I quite enjoyed it. I actually really like the way this worked out. It suits my situation and my taste greatly, because it doesn't become super redundant, though it shares the scent profile the way it's worked. It's kind of like it's part of its own. It's like the third Elysium. It's the third Apex. Kind of the same thing is kind of how I look at it. Maybe it's just me, but I think it's a really good one. It's Vertex from Paris Corner. So this next one, we're talking about the Aventus. I actually have 2 that are twists on Aventus that I quite enjoy. So this one is more of a woodsy take on Aventus. This is from Khadlaj Perfumes. This is Infini Absolute. It's been a little while since I've revisited this one. I have quite the fondness for it. The quality here is pretty good. Some of their scents come across a bit more cheap and synthetic, and some of them come across as pretty high quality. This being one of them, it's good stuff. It's so fruity in the top. It's smoky, but not crazy smoky. But the thing here is, I believe it's vetiver is the woody note that's here, and it's dominant as it dries down. So it's a very woody take on that fruity, smoky feel of Aventus. It's not loaded with florals, though I do believe there's a little bit of rose here. Kind of gives this thickness to the scent profile in the heart. It's a really good performer. I wouldn't call it some beast, but 8 to 10 hour range has been my experience. It's definitely on the stronger side. More on the latter portion of that. It lasts pretty well and smells really, really good. Anybody that's a fan of Aventus and wants maybe something a little different with that scent profile that they maybe haven't gotten in other affordable options that smell like it, if you like woody nuances, you might want to try this one out. It very much is woodsy Aventus. It's kind of how I've always looked at it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. You're probably going to have to blind buy it. I don't think you can get samples of literally any of the 5 that are in this video, so buy at your own risk for sure. Try to do your best to make an educated decision. But if you're looking for woodsy Aventus, Khadlaj Perfumes has you covered with Infini Absolute. Now, with that said, we might as well jump into the other twist on Aventus that I wanted to talk about. I praise this fragrance. It's no stranger to my content. It is my favorite affordable way to smell like Aventus, basically. It's Club de Nuit Intense Man limited edition Parfum, very specifically. I love the richness of this one versus the Eau de Toilette. The lemon here is more candied, sweet, and smooth. It's not as rough and scratchy and synthetic as the Eau de Toilette can be, though it never bothered me. I always found it a little charming. I know it can bother some, but here that's eliminated. It's richened up. You still have that smoky magic appeal, as I like to call it. Deep, rich, fruity, a little tart, very smoky. You get a bit of vanilla, a hit of florals. Oh, God, that's so good. I love smelling this one. I love smelling this one. Great performer on my skin. Not as loud as the Eau de Toilette, but loud enough. The SAAGE lingers. It'll still grab people just as well. It's just not quite the room filler early on that the EDT is known for. But great performance on my skin overall. My favorite version. I do have the Eau de Toilette. I do have the Pure Perfume Parfum version that came out after this. I don't have the Eau de Parfum. So I've heard things of it smells like that, of it smells like the Pure Perfume. I don't think it's the same as that, but if you're looking for the one and you value my opinion at all, this is the one that's worth checking out. It is pricier compared to the other versions. It's around 60 bucks-ish, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've looked, but it's absolutely worth having in my opinion. Not going to be for everyone. I totally understand that, but if you're looking for that more candied lemon twist, very, very rich, dark, and smoky, you like smoky versions of Aventus, this is my absolute favorite one. And it's from Armaf. This is Club de Nuit Intense Man limited edition Parfum. Last and most certainly not least, now I've heard people say I don't get those nuances that you get. Sure, I see it in the note breakdown, but I don't get it. It smells exactly the same to me. Others saying it smells nothing like it. Y'all are crazy. Why is it hyped? You're going to see that all over the place on the internet with fragrances like Lattafa Asad. So it's, to me, SAAGE Elixir with a twist. There's iris that I really don't get in the heart. What I do get a little twist of is I get a little bit of a fresher, slightly fruity feel at the top. It's not super strong, but I do pick it up on my skin of this pineapple note that they have. It doesn't just jump out heavily as pineapple. There's a nice juicy fruit smell just lying in the background, freshening it up a little bit versus actual SAAGE Elixir. And the coffee note offers a different robust darkness to this versus what SAAGE Elixir has. So that's the two notes that kind of twist it just a little bit for me to make it not quite the exact same fragrance. SAAGE Elixir with a twist. That's exactly how I view it. But overall, they were clearly walking the path of SAAGE Elixir. Aromatic, super warm and spicy, a little creamy, woodsy as it dries. Great performance. This is probably, yeah, this is definitely the beast of the video. In my experience, this is 12 plus hours. This is a monster for the money. God, this is so good. If you haven't tried it, I think you're missing out. See, there's that fruitiness even out in the air. I get it, just spritzing it in the air. This is beautiful stuff. I think the hype is warranted. I think it deserves people checking it out more and more, which obviously people seem to be doing because it's very two sides of the fence kind of thing where some are falling one way or the other. I fall on the it's a great fragrance side of the fence, and one that gets my stamp of approval. If you're looking for a great, great affordable way to smell like SAAGE Elixir, and it has a little bit of its own twist to it, Lattafa Asad is the fragrance that I think you might be looking for. Well, that's my 5, and until next time, do me a real quick favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. What's some clones with a little bit of a twist that don't make them carbon copies that you enjoy? definitely sound off in the comments. Some of you may have seen some of these picks coming. Some of these may have surprised you. A few of these are old favorites. There's one that's very new to my collection that I recently gotten reviewed. There's always something out there. Of course, if you can sample first, I know that's not easy with fragrances like this, but again, I reiterate, try to make an educated decision with your blind buying purchases if you're going to choose to go that route. There's obviously links down below if you're interested in checking it out. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these 5 and you give them a spray now, in my opinion, there's always a good chance you might thank me later. Have a good one, guys.